Welcome back to the Obi-Wan channel. As you can see, we are back here on the Junkyard Dawg Ford 30260 over. Anyway, so we're starting to put it all together now. Basically what I'm doing is I'm gapping the rings over there. Then I install it onto the vise over there with those cardboard jaws. And install the rings on there. And then lube it up really well. Using my Blue Point snap-on ring compressor. Bring it over here, set it in the hole, torque it down. So that's what I'm currently doing right now. I kind of got the rings out here so that you can see. Now the last time I did anything like this, I had 2M139, I think 030. That's the size of the ring. But 2M139 is your basic 302 for Hastings anyway. It is your basic Molly ring set for your 4-inch bore, or 302 for that matter. One thing that is different, you take a look here. I've got one of the rings set inside here, inside the bore. This is the top Molly ring, the first compression ring. Okay, pull the bag out. Right there, top compression ring. This is the second compression or oil ring, one of the two. Let's see what it is. They label it as just second. That's all they do. But it has to do with oil control and compression as well. And then, of course, this is the three-piece oil ring, which is typical of most oil rings. And the last time I had done any kind of engine work, because I got a whole bunch of, like that whole box right there is full of these things right here, except I did not have 60 over. I have standard, I have 20, 30, and 40, I think, inside that box over there, plus half sets and all kinds of things. But my point is that the last time I looked in there from years ago, is they were still using the cast iron Molly top ring, which looks a lot like this, pretty deep, you know, and it does have a circle stamped on top there, meaning that is to go upwards. This is apparently the new steel ring that they're using now, steel top Molly ring. It's not near as deep. If you take a look at this one in comparison, you can clearly see that this one here is wider and deeper than that one right there. So that's just a new thing, and because it was a new thing, what I did is I read the instructions on the Silverlight piston, but I contacted Silverlight and I contacted Hastings, and I asked them what they wanted specifically for their spec. Silverlight had it in the instructions, you just had to calculate it, so to speak, but I wanted to know for sure, so I contacted both of them. Silverlight basically said the same thing as their instructions did. Not only that, but they also kind of just said, well, you better contact the piston ring manufacturer and they'll tell you more information. So I contacted Hastings via email, and they did respond back. And basically what they were saying with that Silverlight Hypertech set, they were saying you need to go, what was it, 0.0065 per 0.0065 times your bore, so times 4.060, and when in doing so, it's just at least 26,000 is what it is. And then for the second ring, they said 0.0045 times the bore, which I did the math on that, and it was just over 18,000. And then they said for the ring gap here on the oil control rings, basically the capture rings here, they said 15 thousandths all the way up to 55 thousandths. So a pretty big window there. So anyway, this is how I'm doing it. I'm basically sticking it in the block here, like so. And because this block was run before, very, 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 very slightly, Like I said, it did have just a little bit, like you could still see the cross hatching really well. You can see it really good now because I rehatched it with a dingle ball hone. But my point is that before you could see it really well. You could see a stain where the top piston was stopping, and so that you knew that the engine had been run basically. But I don't think it had been run very, very long at all. So what I want to do is I want to drop these things in to where they're at the top up here. And the reason why I want to do that, because it's first of all easier to measure, but also I don't want to push it down to where the old wear was. I mean, there is some wear. It's very small, probably less than 1,000th according to my dial bore gauge. But my point is that I want to get it up here, up on the top where there was no wear taking place basically. And I want to make my measure there. Now, you get the piston ring in here, and you get it to where you want to actually square it with the bore. You could take an old piston, and you could put a ring in the top, in the top groove, and you could put the piston inside the hole, upside down, and then when it comes up against that ring on the top, ringland, it'll stop, and thereby it'll keep this all nice and square. Again, I don't want to do that. I probably would do that if this were like a fresh bored and honed block, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to push it down into the cylinder where the actual cylinder will widen up a little bit because of that old wear, right? I want it to be, personally, I want to take a measurement here where it's at its tightest, okay, which is going to be up here on the top. And this is how I square it. I take this, set of gauges here, and I basically just lay this flat, and then this wheel here sits down below the surface, right? And so I just lay it flat like that, and just kind of push it all the way around like so, and there you go. I just squared it up. So that's how I do that. And then I have this other set over here with the specification, 26 thousandths. We need to have at least 26 thousandths, right? And I'll try to put that over here, and it just isn't going to fit. Okay, so we need to gap that ring to where it fits. And I can tell you already that the second ring is not going to fit either, as far as the 18 thousandths. I think it's that one right there. There we go. 18 thousandths. It will not fit because I've actually already tested quite all the bores basically, and it's not going to fit. So I got to grind it. So what I did is I went on eBay, and they have those $24, $25 piston ring grinders with a crank on it, and I actually ordered it, and it did not ship, and I was pretty upset about that. I had ordered it like Sunday night, and by Tuesday it hadn't shipped, and I'm like, dude, I want this for this next weekend. And so I basically called or sent them a message, say cancel the order, and they did. And went immediately to Summit Racing, and I bought this electric piston ring filer, 120 volt. There is a 220 volt version. This is the Proform 66758. I actually did also go to Summit YouTube channel and look at all the different options that they do offer. There is some pretty cool ones, but I've used this now, and I will tell you that you don't need the fancy smancy one, but if you want to spend $400, go right ahead. I spent I can't remember, it was over 100 for sure. Might have been 200. I don't remember anymore. But this one wasn't cheap. But also I bought other things too, so that's the other reason why I don't really remember. But I know this was over $100. And it just comes with this power transformer right here. Converts your 110 to a 6 volt basically. You plug it right here. It has a switch right here. Turn it on. And there you go. Now when I first got it, I got it out of the box, and I actually turned it on, and it really took off kind of slow. There's you can actually see brass bushings in here when you actually stare at it deep enough. You know, you look down inside there. I took some of my my AMSOIL firearm lubricant. That's a really good oil, actually. And I put that right there and there and then underneath. This thing was all assembled in the box. All I had to do was just take this out of a different box and plug it in, and this thing was ready to go. This wheel was already mounted inside there. But my point is that when I put that oil on there and then I turned it on, then you can actually maybe hear that, but it actually spun a lot faster. It was pretty tight, pretty brand new. So I don't know if you don't lube it, you might have to let it run for about a half hour to an hour to loosen up or something like that. But anyway, that's what I'm currently doing here. I'm going to try my best to pause this video and show you how this is done. But I don't know. I'm dealing with a new phone right now, and we'll just have to see how that goes. But I would like to show you how I'm doing this if I can set this camera up right. But one of the things I will tell you, though, being how I've done 2 of these so far, I am counting myself by the seconds. So I go 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, and that's basically how I'm doing this right now. When I put this in here and I you know, see that the gap is small, and it's pretty similar throughout all of them, right? I take this out, and for the top ring, because I need 26 thousandths of clearance on this one here, basically I put it over here, and I'm actually probably not doing this the way everybody says you should do it. I'm actually putting the ring in here like so, right? Like this, and I'm pushing it up against there, and then I just rock it over until this touches, is what I do. Okay, so I'm trying to keep this nice and flat. I'm using 2 hands. I got a camera in my hand right now. But I'm trying to keep this flat, and I rock it over, and I run it for 4 seconds on the top ring. 4 seconds, you know, grinding, and then I come over here and I do it over here. 4 seconds grinding, and then that has been pretty much all I need to get to 26 thousandths on that top ring. And then here on the bottom cast iron ring here, to get it out to 18 thousandths, I basically do the same thing, and I think it takes me 3 thousandths or 3 seconds per side to get to the 18 thousandth spec. And then I'll basically take this thing in here like so, hold it flat, and I'll touch that, and then I'll touch that, and then, you know, do the same thing over here. I'll touch that, and I'm just trying to deburr it. And then, of course, I run it across some sandpaper here, you know, this just edge right here, and that gets all the burrs and everything off of it, and that seems to clean it up really well. I have found that this, again, needs to be at least 15 thousandths of gap. This is the hardest one to square up in that bore, but I've found that it is pretty much right at 15 thousandths. And usually what I do, just to be sure, because I can go clear up to 55 thousandths. See, notice how this one here, it's not spread apart. So basically what I do with 2 hands again, I'm sitting there, and this thing's running, and I put it down here, and then I have it spread apart, and then I let it clamp itself on there, and what ends up, and I hold it right here so it doesn't vibrate up and down, and I let it go for about a second, and then I pull it off. And I mean, because I did actually measure the very first one really carefully, and it was really close to that 15 thousandths. So I just figured, well, you know, just a little bit of a touch, it isn't going to hurt anything. And then I do the same thing, grind all the burrs off with the sandpaper, and it works just fine. So, all right, I'm going to try to pause the video now and see if I can set this thing up to where you can at least watch some of the operation of this. Okay, I think I'm back here. I might have recorded a little something. You know, one of the reasons why this is probably so bad is because I don't have time to edit a video and put it on a nice camera and all that. So I'm just trying to do this as best I can, you know, just on my phone, and put it up to YouTube and let you guys view it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But at least the information is out there, and I'm hoping that it can help somebody else out. Honestly, I'm not doing this because I want to make money or monetize on YouTube or whatever. They're probably not even going to let that happen anyway, because I have political views that they don't like. But my point is that I'm doing this for the people, for you guys out there, so you have this information, because I can tell you right now, this kind of information is getting hard to find. There's not a whole lot of people out there that have experience like I do, and some of these other YouTubers anymore. I mean, it's getting really tough. I'm literally just embarrassed to go to the parts store anymore, because I literally can look up and tell the people behind the counter what part I need exactly and find it for them, basically, because I'm not even joking. Over half of them do not have a clue what I'm after. So that's the reason why I do this. Okay, so coming over here, and I'm assuming, of course, this is actually viewing all that. Yeah, so I got the top ring, and as I said, I'm going to do it for a couple seconds. So I'll put it right here. I got it up against the pins here. I'm going to roll it over to one side and count to 4 seconds. There we go. Then I'm going to count and do the other side. There you go. And you can see that I'm not really putting a lot of pressure on it. I kind of got a little aggressive there in the beginning because, you know, it almost shut the motor off. And then it has a little burr on this side now. And to get rid of that, I mean, yeah, I can use the sandpaper here, but one way of doing that is rolling it over the other direction and just quickly hitting it. And that usually takes off that really heavy burr, okay? So now this one here should be pretty much ready, but of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over and put it in the block and actually measure it. And if it happens to be perfect, then great. I'll go ahead and sand it up. And if not, then I'll go ahead and, you know, hit it again until I get it right. So I'm going to pause it again here, guys. So I did actually put it back in the bore, and this thing fits perfectly. So that's kind of, again, how I do it. If you're not going to use that fancy $400 or $500 ring tool, ring gapping filer that has the, you know, the gauge on it and all that, that's pretty much how I do it. I count the number of seconds. Of course, it takes you know, a few trial and errors, but for the most part, though, that very first one, you just got to be careful, and you got to go slow so you don't make your gap too wide, which really I don't care, because again, junkyard engine, right? I'm not racing this thing, and if I do, I'm not expecting much. So again, to get rid of all these burrs, this is how I do it. Put it down in here like so. Run it on that side, run it on this side, flip it over. Run it there, run it there. So what I'm trying to do is just get all these burrs off of here. So I pretty much got all that. So now I just run it on a sandpaper, run it on a sandpaper. And these foam sandpapers work really good for that. You just gotta be careful. They sometimes like to tear open. Got a little bit here yet. And there you go. I've got a nice, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I got a pretty nice, smooth ring that is perfectly gapped. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with this one right here. Okay, while I got the camera on, let's do it. Lay it down. And I do have the top upwards, I guess, if that matters. then 3 seconds the other side. Okay, and then again, got that really heavy grind, you know, on the backside, that sharp edge that it just creates. So just touch it. And that usually takes the heavy stuff off. Okay, I'll go ahead and put that back in the bore and test it. Be right back. Alright, so the biggest thing that we did is we basically, you know, I did everything that I explained that I was going to do. I did 4 seconds per side here in the ring grinder, and then, you know, buffed it off with the sander right here. Get all these sharp edges off. The important reason for that is, especially out here against the bore, is you don't want to scratch and score your cylinder. And not only that, but anything that's sharp can be a potential hot point, can be a potential hot spot for detonation and that kind of stuff. So that's why you want to make sure that you don't have any super sharp spots on your rings. And then I did the same thing here for the second ring. And then, as I promised, I actually took this thing right here, and being how I'm not going to turn it on, but you can now see how I do this. I basically just take and I open this up, drop it down here, and just let it go, like to where it actually hits the wheel, and I'm holding it down, so again, it's not bouncing around, and I'm holding it down, you know, just let it do that, hold it down, about a second, and I'm done. That's really all it takes. And then I do the same thing, is I take the sandpaper here and I sand it up, and that makes it all work. So, that is how I gap these rings here, this ring set, on the Junkyard 302. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually install these, and I'm probably going to do that in a different video. But this shows you what I'm doing right now, and it shows you how I'm gapping these rings. And then at this point, you now know, you know, if you've got one of these gappers, which I'm going to tell you right now, if I were to use the crank style, this would take forever. And I would have to have somebody here cranking, or I would have to crank while holding this down with one hand. This would take all day. This right here, this grinder right here, is by far well worth it. For all your stock builds, all your junkyard builds, even some mild racing builds, and I would even say if you get good at it, you know, with some experience, and I do have experience, I would even say this thing here could do professional racing engines if you just do it the right way, right? And I'm just kind of honestly being a little cheap and quick about it, but again, remember, a junkyard engine, and you can see, if you just take a look, can you see that in the camera, or is that camera not? You can see it does a really good job. It's nice, and I mean, you can see it's grinding all the way across the surface of it. And when I put it in there, into the bore, and I pinch it together, nothing is slanted weird or anything. The key is to get it flat to the bed here, and to get it up against that pin and this pin, and rock it into the grinding wheel. If you come off of this pin over here while you're against this pin over here, well then obviously you're going to grind on a bad angle, and yeah, these are not going to be flat and squared. The way I understand it though is you're supposed to actually set it down here on the bed like this, keep it nice and flat, and then push it in both sides into the wheel. But the tension on these things are pretty strong. I mean, it's not that I can't overcome it, but it's harder for me to actually touch one side or the other better than the other, because I'm concentrating on trying to keep it in there, keep it square, all of that stuff. Honestly, I just find it so much easier to just grind one side and then the other side. And in fact, you could probably just grind one side of the ring only and be good with that, because all you're looking for is the gap. But I like to do everything as equal as possible. Alright, so there you go. like, subscribe. By the way, if you don't know this, I am actually getting on. I'm syncing all my stuff over to Rumble as well. So if you hate YouTube, like kinda I do, or at least I hate its ideals anyway, and its tyranny and censorship and all this other shit that's happening. If you don't like that, all my stuff is also going over to Rumble, and you can find me there under the same name, OB1N. So if you are not wanting to watch here on YouTube, go over to Rumble, and I don't think they call it subscribe. I think they call follow. There you go. Follow me over at Rumble, and hit a Rumble button while you're at it. So hope to see you here or there or whatever, and I'm hoping that this information here is helping you out. Again, my biggest goal is that you learn something, and that that it's helping you. That's the biggest goal here. So again, thanks for your time. Like, Rumble, subscribe, follow, whatever, and we'll be talking to you soon. Bye bye.